Week 5 of the NFL Opening Line Report, a special Monday night edition of the Opening Line Report. I am TommyFreezePops, and I am here with a man that does this better than anyone else in the business. He's got odds and action for you, unlike anyone else. My friend, my colleague, and my hero.
Oh my God.
Patrick.
Easy now. Easy now.
Patrick, what's going on, buddy? I missed you on Sunday.
Yeah, look, and I apologize for anybody who was wanting to jump in on this last night. But I was traveling. I was in Chicago over the weekend. It was fantastic. But I could not get home in time to do this on Sunday night. I was literally in a plane as we normally would have been doing this on Sunday night. Didn't get home till about 10:30 or so Pacific time. So that would have had you rolling at 1:30 in the AM Eastern time, which I think is a little late for everybody. So we figured discretion is the better part of valor, and discretion said bump it to Monday. Plus there's a little bit more information to give you out on Monday, a little more time for these lines to be bet into. So hopefully we can give you a great show tonight.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this show looks a little different now that you have an extra day of talking to guys, making your way around Vegas, making some phone calls, shooting some texts around. So why don't we start with what I think is the best game of week 5. I think there's probably two that stand out, but we'll start with this one. In the AFC North, we have the Bengals heading to Baltimore, who are 3-point favorites at the moment. And the over-under set at 48.5 at the Vegas Insider Consensus odds page. Patrick, what are you hearing about the MVP, not front runner, but he's right in the mix, Lamar Jackson, taking on a guy who you would think is going to play himself into that MVP conversation at some point this season if that offensive line can give him time? What are we looking at here, Patrick?
Yeah, interesting game. Not surprised it's at 3. At the beginning of every week, as I've mentioned the last few weeks and with our opening line reports, I talked to John Murray. He's the executive director at the Superbook, and he and his odds makers, a great team of NFL folks. So they get me really good stuff each Sunday night on the following week's games. And I'm not surprised it's at 3 based off of what John told me on Sunday night. And that was we opened Ravens minus 3.5 and went to just 3.5 flat. And moved to Bengals 3 plus 3.5 minus 120 pretty quickly after taking a few hits on the dog. And as you noted, it's now minus 3. So people are liking the Bengals we're liking that Bengals enough getting that 3 in the hook to get that down to 3. John said, look, this is a great test for Cincinnati, and he thinks this game will go a long way early in the season as it is, a long way toward deciding the division. He says he expects pretty even action on this game. He thinks there's going to be good two-way play as the week unfolds.
Yeah, and I expect Cincinnati to come out firing here. They got a slow start to the year. They had that game on Thursday night, which has seemingly been overshadowed by what happened to Tua, even though they came out in those really, really fresh all-white uniforms. We haven't talked about those.
Yes, those are sharp.
Those awesome. The white helmet was fantastic. Yes. But, I think the Bengals are going to be out here looking for a statement game. We know Joe Burrow likes a statement game, and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens at the same time, they need a bounce back after blowing that game to Buffalo in a fashion that, a guy on the couch could say, you shouldn't have made that play call there at the end, John Harbaugh. And that seemingly is becoming a theme here year after year with Harbaugh and the Ravens. So it's an interesting spot for both teams where the Bengals are trying to establish themselves as a legit contender in the AFC, and the Ravens are trying to say, hey, we're one of the best, and we need to bounce back after blowing that one to Buffalo.
No, I agree. The Ravens were in a fantastic spot yesterday, Sunday, as Tom and I talked to everybody listening or watching and what have you on Monday night. A 20-3 lead late in the first half. You're totally in the catbird seat, and you're showing that you are a challenger in the AFC. If you're putting up a fight against Buffalo, you're a challenger in the AFC, no question. I mean, Buffalo made it clear in the first couple of weeks, and honestly, dating back to the playoff run last year, that they are, that's a fine football team. Just happened to, hit Kansas City, go to overtime, and didn't get the ball, didn't win the coin flip. They could have very well been in the Super Bowl. They may have beaten this Cincinnati team in the AFC Championship game. So It's definitely a bounce back spot for Baltimore. Like John said, it's a great test for Cincinnati. It's a tough spot for Cincinnati. I mean, one of these two teams is going to come out of here 2-3, and both of them obviously have playoff aspirations. But I'll tell you what, at 3, I feel like, I know John says he expects pretty even action, and I definitely defer to his experience and opinion. But I feel like at 3, Sunday night prime time, with Baltimore at home, I think the public's going to be on Lamar pretty good, and I might even want a piece of that at 3.
Yeah, and with Burrow getting hit as much as he has through the first few weeks of the season, Baltimore's defense is always going to be physical no matter what. So I could even see this number moving a little bit here throughout the week, maybe up to 4.5.
Might go back up.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see where this thing falls by Sunday afternoon. So I'll have my eye on this one. It's going to be an awesome game. Anytime the AFC North teams get together when they're competitive, it's really, really good stuff. So let's move on to another division rival here in the AFC. We've got the Raiders, who got their first win of the year. Your hometown team, Las Vegas Raiders, beating your favorite team, the Denver Broncos.
Yes,
we'll talk with the Broncos in a second here. What a strange season they're having. They're taking on the Chiefs, who looked like the best team in the NFL on Sunday night, absolutely crushing the GOAT down in Tampa. So they're 7-point favorites at the moment as they host their classic rival, the Raiders. The over-under is at 51.5. And that information coming to us from the Vegas Insider consensus page. I almost called them the Oakland Raiders for a second there. I caught myself because that's the rivalry, KC Oakland. I'm not used to Vegas KC yet.
Yeah, I'm not either.
No, I don't think I ever will be. But what do we got here, Patrick? Are the Chiefs going to cover a touchdown here? Or did the Raiders snap into it? They're going to be this prolific offensive team that we all expected them to be now.
Yeah, I saw a little bit earlier. I think I know it a little bit earlier. The Chiefs at the Superbook had gone to 7 minus 120. And that's a game the Superbook on Sunday, late Sunday afternoon here in Vegas, opened Chiefs -7. And John Murray told me that was after having Wise Guys lay us at -6.5 last week on the look ahead line. So they were already getting some Chiefs activity from the sharper bettors in the look ahead, last week. So decided, hey, let's open the Chiefs a notch higher. And even with that, they got to Chiefs -7, -120 today. The line was off the board last night. The Raiders-Chiefs game was off the line during the Chiefs-Bucks game. Superbook put it back up this morning. I thought there might be enough of an adjustment. John even said last night, he gave me his comments during the Sunday night game as Kansas City was just pouring on the points. And he said last night, I'd expect an adjustment after this offensive explosion from Kansas City. But this morning, I guess, as they talked it over in the risk room, they thought the adjustment wasn't worth a half a point just yet, and decided to just juice the Chiefs a little bit more, and that's where they sit now. But I got to think this is going to get 7.5, and who knows, perhaps beyond. After the way the Chiefs looked on Sunday night, bettors have, first off, the Chiefs are a hugely public team, Patrick Mahomes and all that, and they've had several good seasons in a row. But second off, the recency bias is hard to overcome, I think, in this case with them just going down to Tampa. And really, look, 41-31 looks kind of close, but I didn't feel
that
like
was not a close
threatened. They were not threatened in that game once they got rolling.
No, not at all. Bucks look off, man. Brady looks off. His body language looks like 2019 last season in New England Tom Brady. I think that Tom Brady really wanted to play for the Miami Dolphins. I'm starting to get that vibe there was a lot more smoke to that fire than we realize. It's just been a weird year for Tampa. Their record looks good, but they have looked shaky. But KC, man, Patrick Mahomes is so fun to watch. And like you said, the public has got to be all over this one, especially with Vegas having the record that they have so far. I know you've mentioned in the past that because Vegas is home in Vegas, that the number with that team is kind of weird sometimes because there's so much people on vacation that want to just bet on the Raiders. And then there's people in town that want to bet on the Raiders. So that thing can kind of look strange. But in this situation, I just think that KC is too good and the Raiders have been so mediocre that this thing could move by a point and a half, maybe even up to 9. this week.
Yeah, once you start to get in those 8.5 sort of dead-ish numbers, 9 can certainly come into play. I do think because the Raiders got the W, they had to get the W. I mean, if they lost at home to Denver and got out,
that was must win.
That was absolutely must win. But I do think they'll see some support here. But it was kind of interesting. It was when I talked to Scott Shelton at BetMGM Nevada late Saturday night, and again, I'm backing up a little bit to the week 3 games or week 4 games. So I apologize for that, but there's some relevance to it. He pointed out, hey, we're still getting hit on the Raiders pretty good here locally. But as I looked Sunday morning at BetMGM's national numbers, it was much more two-way action between the Broncos and Raiders overall. So they were getting hit heavier on the Raiders here in Vegas, but nationally it wasn't, that theme wasn't taking hold, and it was more two-way action. If that's the case this week, and I have noticed a tendency for things to kind of back off a little bit when the Raiders go on the road, people aren't quite as enthusiastic here about betting them. And it makes sense based on the way they started for sure. I think it's going to take hold potentially this week too. Though, as earlier today, when Kevin Rogers had me on on his live stream this afternoon before the Monday night game, he pointed out the Raiders have played pretty well in Kansas City the last couple of seasons. So that's something to take into account as well. But I just don't see how the public is going to be able to lay off Patrick Mahomes and that team after what we saw Sunday night in Tampa.
Yeah, they're a machine right now, man. Mm-hmm. That guy's a man on a mission, I think. Mm-hmm. Losing the way that they did in the AFC Championship last year. I mean, the Chiefs blew that game. The Cincinnati's run was so fun that I think we forget that KC was up at half by 3 touchdowns. And they had a chance to go up by 4 touchdowns. And then there was some clock mismanagement and some weird play calling by Andy Reid, and ended up biting them in the end. So I think Patrick Mahomes is out here to remind people, hey, yeah, Josh Allen's great. Joe Burrow's cool. Lamar's awesome, but I am the best quarterback in the league. It really feels like he's played that way so far this season.
Oh, I agree. And I was talking, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, with Rex Byers, a pretty well-respected odds maker here in town. He's been at Caesars. He's been at the Superbook. And he's now the head of wagering for one of the newer sportsbook ventures, Play Up USA. And he's like, even after 2 weeks, he was like, the Chiefs are my, and the Chiefs definitely had their hands full with the Chargers in that week 2 Thursday night game. But he's like, look, this is my team. I know everybody's talking about the Bills, but I feel like Kansas City is the best team in the NFL.
They're very fun to watch too. So,
no question, they're a blast to watch.
An absolute. I mean, he looks like prime Brett Favre on steroids out there. It's unreal. So let's talk about what I think is in contention for the best game of the week. I said Bengals Ravens. This is the other one. Although the Rams didn't look good tonight. When I looked at right before this broadcast, they were at Rams -5 hosting Dallas. I have to imagine that thing is going to change given what we saw tonight and what we've seen from Dallas over the last few weeks with Cooper Rush and that defense actually looking really good, living up to the hype here. The over-under is at 45.5. Rams are the home team, but we know how Cowboy fans can travel, and there's a lot of Southern California Cowboy fans, so I don't know that home field advantage is going to be all that much of a difference maker here for LA. So Patrick, what can you tell me about this one between two prime brands for the NFL going head to head here? That line's got to move, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I think, and one thing we have to pay attention to this week is it's already moved a fair amount at some spots, as I'll get into in a moment, but you got to keep an eye on Dak Prescott's status as well. So while Dallas has managed to go 3-0 without Dak Prescott, they may have Dak Prescott back this week. I don't think that decision has been made yet, but I saw a couple of articles over the weekend that alluded to him potentially playing this week. And the Superbook, they opened the Rams 6.5 late Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening here in Las Vegas. And John Murray said we were bet down to -6 pretty quickly on Sunday night. Early action on Dallas, and more than likely sharp play. That's usually sharper guys looking to pick off numbers right out of the gate there. So, as you pointed out, the Cowboys have won 3 in a row with Cooper Rush at quarterback. But John feels like if Cooper Rush is still the starting QB, and honestly, even if Dak Prescott is the starting QB, but if Cooper Rush is still there, he said, look, this is going to be their toughest test by far. But he also noted one thing working in favor of Dallas is the Rams had a very tough road Monday night game against a physical 49ers team. And we saw that. John said that last night, not that we didn't anticipate that, the Rams were going to have a difficult matchup and that the 49ers are a physical team. But we just saw this play out. This is one thing we can bring to bear by doing this on Monday night. We just saw the Monday night game. We just saw the Rams, and that was a physical as hell game. And, Stafford got beat up quite a bit. The Rams as a whole got beat up quite a bit. They couldn't fricking score in the red zone, and I had over 39.5 in game, so I wasn't very happy about that. I thought that was happening. When I saw 39.5, I got in. It was 3-0. The Niners immediately broke off a 40-yard touchdown. I'm like, yeah, that's going to help me. I still can't believe that they didn't get to 40 tonight. But that's the NFL for you, and that's why I am where I am, and where the odds makers are where they are.
And that's why we keep it to Chili's money.
Absolutely. Hashtag Chili's money, folks. Never bet more than you can afford to lose. But again, what John said is one thing working in favor of Dallas is the Rams have a very tough road Monday night game against a physical 49ers team that totally came to fruition ahead of this week 5 matchup. So they played Monday night on the road, a difficult game against the Niners, definitely a very physical game. Now they got to come home and play Dallas, which might have its starting quarterback coming back. And even if not, they've got a head of steam here. They've won 3 in a row. They figured out how to make it work with Cooper Rush for right now. It should be a pretty good game. I'm not surprised that this number is running toward Dallas. I mean, I'm seeing several spots with 5 and a couple spots with 4.5 on the Vegas Insider NFL odds page. So, 4.5 represents a move. I should have my phone with me so I can look at Superbook odds, but 4.5 is a 2-point move off of what the Superbook opened at on Sunday afternoon. So that's significant.
So looking at 2 things that Joe Buck said at the end of this broadcast here that I wrote down. This is the 4th time, only the 4th time under McVay that the Rams have gone without a touchdown in a game. So there's clearly some issues going on with that offense. And one other nugget here from Joe Buck. It's the first time in 15 years that a Rams offense did not have a play over 20 yards in a game. So they need to figure something out here. Cooper Kupp is awesome, but Stafford has not looked right. Higbee's looked good, but it's just Kupp and Higbee at this point. And Allen Robinson has not been able to fill that Odell Beckham void. It's been kind of lackluster. It's been very pedestrian on the Rams offensive side of the ball. Cam Akers hasn't looked anything like we thought he was going to be. So I think that we could see the Cowboys cover here next week. I'm going to be on the Cowboys. I think if you can get them at +4.5, +5 heading into this one, I think that number is going to move. I think there's going to be a lot of people like me that are going to be putting their money on Dallas, and that number is going to move throughout the week. But
right,
that's my bold prediction.
You think it'll keep going beyond 4.5, possibly maybe to 4 or
I don't think the Cowboys will end as the favorite, obviously, but I think we could see that thing at 3. I really do.
Wow, that would be a tremendous move. So look, folks, if Tom is right,
Stafford looked horrible
like the Cowboys,
tonight, man.
you need to go in on this now if Tom is correct.
Get it. I'm going to go get it right now.
And hopefully you went and got it last night. I mentioned the Superbook, and I forgot. I did mention this earlier when we were talking about the Broncos Chiefs game. Once tonight's game started between the Rams and Niners, the Rams, Cowboys, and 49ers Panthers games coming up this week both came off the board. So right now at the Superbook, they're not offering that game, but it will be interesting to see what the Superbook's number is tomorrow morning in light of the Rams just seeming out of sorts, not able to put up touchdowns in the red zone, having to settle for field goals constantly, and also getting beat up quite a bit over the course of that game as well. It will be interesting to see tomorrow morning when the Superbook comes back out where they stand. I mean, obviously they'll be influenced significantly by the other books who still have this up at this point where they're at. And as I noted, as when looking at Vegas Insider's NFL odds page, it looks like, there's a couple of maybe 1 or 2 5.5s out there that you can pick off. I want to look and see where that's at. Let me scroll back up here. And
while you look,
it looks like FanDuel.
Okay, there you go. A stat I'm looking at on SportsCenter right now: the Rams and the Niners. The comparison on Monday night for pressures. Stafford was pressured 17 times and sacked 7 times tonight. And on the other side, Rams only got to Garoppolo 4 times, no sacks. So you don't think Micah Parsons and that opportunistic Dallas defense is going to take advantage of this banged up Rams team? I'm going to be all over the Cowboys, baby. So how about them Cowboys as we head into week 5? Let's talk about your team. How about them Denver Broncos? They're the favorites right now at 3.5, taking on a Colts team that has been wholly disappointing in 2022. Yes. The over-under at 43.5 at the moment. What a strange game to handicap here. Broncos have been incredibly disappointing despite what their record says. And the Colts, I mean, I was on them to be an AFC championship contender with the talent I thought that team possessed. But Matt Ryan, I love the guy as a Boston College fan, but man, he looks washed, dude. And the rest of that team looks very pedestrian. Their offensive line looks bad. Jonathan Taylor can't be his full self without help. Pittman, we all thought he was going to be amazing. He's clearly not a top 10, top 15 receiver. At least he hasn't shown that yet. And now you have Shaq Leonard, formerly Darius Leonard, is in concussion protocol, and he's going to miss this upcoming week. So the dumpster fire continues for Indy as they head to Denver. It's almost like Denver needed Indy, right? But 3.5, should Denver be favored by 3.5 against anyone right now?
I don't think so. But keep in mind, Jonathan Taylor's got he's got some sort of ankle issue. He may not play this week. So that's something you're absolutely going to have to keep an eye on, further hindering the Colts. But to your point, both the teams have been disappointing. And I'm with you. I took a Colts Super Bowl bet preseason at 25-1 and kind of liked that as sort of an under the radar-ish team. With all these, with all the talk about everybody else, including Denver, whose odds were in like the 14 to 16-1 range because of all the hullabaloo around Russell Wilson. This team's not any good. I mean, from what I've seen so far, this team is just not that good, which is disappointing because I wanted both these teams to be good. Denver for my own personal preferences, and I always place the Super Bowl bet on the Broncos every year, and Indy because I thought with that Matt Ryan might have a little more in the tank. I thought he might have a little bit of a rebirth, all of what happened with Stafford and the Rams last year. So I thought those were possibilities and expected much more out of both of these teams. I am definitely surprised that it's 3.5. Last night, this didn't move at all at the Super Bowl. John Murray told me, he said, we opened Broncos -3 and are still there. He pointed out no Jonathan Taylor for the Colts. They don't expect him to play at this point. And they have a short week. This is the Thursday night game. They have a short week to prepare to go on the road and face Denver. Denver lost a running back, key running back today as well for the season, not just for the week. So Denver has its problems as well. But John made an interesting point, and this has happened. I've reported on this over the past couple of seasons. This has been kind of a regular occurrence. The wise guys generally like to play the Colts as a dog, and he said it wouldn't surprise me to see that happen here. So that's a possibility. And even though Denver has gone to 3.5, don't be surprised to see that go back to 3, and maybe even a little shorter, depending on how the week unfolds and what the sharp guys think about the Colts.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here. 2 questions about your Denver Broncos. 1, will they make the playoffs? We'll go one at a time here. Will they make the playoffs? Yes or no, and why?
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I just feel like this was. Here's the analysis on this isn't going to be super deep, but my buddy Matt Jacob and I, who does a lot of work in the sports betting space as well, we went in on a joint entry for the Superbook's new contest. You pick the over/under on all 32 teams, which is a really neat contest, by the way, and it's only $200 to get in. So it's a pretty cool contest. If you live out here or if you get out here over the summer, it's a fun thing to take part in because you got to get it all in preseason. You don't have to worry about it. And then basically you have action all season long. So it's really neat. But I digress. So we were looking at the AFC West, and as we went over every team, especially as we were going through the AFC West, we almost went under on all 4 AFC West teams. Matt really wanted to go on all 4 AFC West teams. He really wanted to go under. I talked him out of it on the Chiefs, thankfully, but I agree with him on the others. I just think the division is going to cannibalize itself. That's what I thought preseason. And now you've got Denver not showing nearly as well as people expected. The Raiders snuck into the playoffs last year, but they're 1-3 now, and they got to go to Kansas City. I don't think they're winning that game this week. I think they may cover, but I don't think they're winning. I could be wrong. The Raiders have played well, as our colleague Kevin Rogers has pointed out. The Raiders have played well over the last couple of seasons in Kansas City, but I don't see it happening this week. So, I don't think that Denver or the Raiders get there. I do think, as long as the Chargers can, get and stay healthy, that the Chargers and Chiefs do get there. But I don't think 3 teams are getting out of the AFC West into the playoffs. And so if you're only going to give me 2, I'm taking, I would put my money on Mahomes and Justin Herbert.
Okay, so Russell Wilson, Nathaniel Hackett. Will one be back next season? Will both be back next season? Or will neither guy be there next season? Got to pick one.
Both.
One or neither?
Or one. Look, I don't think they're gonna 86 Hackett in one season, and I don't think they're gonna 86 Wilson either. I think Denver's gonna play better. I guess what I think maybe is that 10-7 might still be within reach for Denver if it manages to. It's got to win its home games in the division. And it's got to play better than it's played these first 4 weeks, no question. But 10-7, I just have a feeling might not get you there this year. I know it got teams there last year. I think even like a 9-8, or I don't even remember what the Steelers had a wonky record because they had a tie or something, right? And managed to sneak into the playoffs. But if I'm correct, am I remembering that correctly, Tom? I hope I am.
Yes.
But regardless, 10-7 might not get you to the playoffs. But if they get to 10 wins, then I think both stay, and I think there's a chance they might get to 9 or 10 wins. So I'll take that they both remain. And if the next 4 weeks are as ugly as the first 4 weeks, then I think we need to revisit that question. How's that? But I think for the moment, right now, this snapshot, they both stay.
It's still a little too early for you to jump the gun here. Okay, that's fair. We're only 4 weeks in.
Yep.
So if they were 0-4, we'd be talking about a much different situation.
Absolutely.
And by the way, they could very easily be 0-4. So before we talk about the biggest number of the week, I want to tell you guys about the Vegas Insider app, which is brand new and fantastic. And if you are someone that loves what we do here at Vegas Insider, this is a must for you on your smartphone. Go get this thing. Go download it on Apple and Android. We have easy to update, easy to navigate, up-to-date odds for every major sport, all of our latest shows, best bet videos and podcasts, props, trends, futures, news, all on the free Vegas Insider app. Download the Vegas Insider app right now on your app store of choice. Bet better with the Vegas Insider app. You guys are talking to me and Patrick Everson here on the Week 5 opening line report. We usually do this on Sunday nights after Sunday Night Football. And this week, we're coming to you on Monday night after Monday Night Football. Our guy, Patrick Everson, was in the air last night coming back from a concert in Chicago. By the way, how was the concert, Patrick? How'd you like Chicago? Did you dive into any deep dish, some Italian beef? What do we...
Yeah,
Portillo's? What do we do?
Yeah, absolutely. All of that. It's funny. All of that. My wife's from Chicago. She's from Oklahoma.
Oh, there you go. She knows the spots.
But she hasn't been back in a while. But we went to her favorite pizza spot that she went to growing up as a child, which is Baracco's. Give Baracco's a shout out. They were unbelievable. We went there for lunch on Friday just to make sure, some of these places over the years, they change, ownership changes, and you worry that the recipe's not the same. We're really big Chicago thin crust fans. Really, and I'm telling you, it exists and it's amazing. Chicago thin crust is outstanding. And Baracos, I think, is among the best. So we went back to try it Friday for lunch just to make sure it was still good. And it was fantastic.
Oh, you just had to make sure it was still good. Just
well,
to test,
no. I'm
right?
getting this is just the beginning. There's more, but wait, there's more. Okay. So then Saturday we went to Portillo's. We were with some good friends of ours who flew in from Omaha. Went to a great concert Friday night too. New Order and Pet Shop Boys, which was amazing. 80s new wave. It was awesome. Unbelievable. Right in my wheelhouse. So Saturday we went to Portillo's. And then we made a little side trip over to the high school where Ferris Bueller took place, which was awesome. That was really neat. And then on Sunday, what we did, and this is what we've done, we did this like 17 years ago, which is the last time my wife and I went to Chicago together. We ordered from Baracos 5 thin crust pizzas, half cooked, then frozen.
Oh.
We packed them all up in a cooler in a suitcase and flew that stuff home. So we got 5 large Baracos pizzas sitting in our freezer here. We're going to be chomping on that for the next few weeks. Looking forward to that. So yeah.
What a veteran move.
And we did. And then on Saturday night, backing up, we did Lou Malnati's pan because we were staying at this Airbnb that was literally like 2 blocks from Lou Malnati's. So on Saturday night, we stayed in at our Airbnb with our good friends, played cards, got Lou Malnati's pan style Chicago deep dish. Amazing. So we did it all. We Chicago beef, hot dogs, thin crust pizza, Chicago deep dish pizza. We left no stone unturned.
That's the way to do it, man. Great eating city. I've only been to Chicago once. And I still think I'm having the meat sweats from that weekend 6 years ago. So speaking of meat sweats, Steelers at Buffalo, 2 cities where you can get a good meat sweat on. The Buffalo Bills, a 14-point favorite, hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the over-under at the moment at 47.5. You have to think Kenny Pickett is going to keep that starting job here heading into Buffalo. So you have to imagine that the bookmakers are factoring that in, the rookie getting his first start against possibly the most complete team in the NFL, coming home after a tough-fought few weeks here on the road against 2 really good teams in the AFC. So, Patrick, does this number stay at 14? Does it get bigger? Does it get smaller? Do we stay right here? Well, what are we looking at? What are the books saying about the Bills minus 14 here hosting the Steelers?
Well, first off, to your point, Kenny Pickett making his first start on the road. This is what John Murray said at the Superbook. He said, almost exactly what you just said in a few different words. Kenny Pickett will make his first start on the road against the best team in the NFL. That's a lot to ask of the kid. I'm sure we will need the Steelers. But to the latter half of your point there, John said these huge point spreads generally scare the public away. They opened 14 at the Superbook late Sunday afternoon here in Vegas. I believe they're still sitting 14 now. They were sitting 14 earlier this afternoon. So they haven't moved off that at all. I would think that bettors, there's no way that bettors are jumping off the Bills bandwagon just because they struggled against Baltimore, because they did come back and win that game and cash out a whole bunch of money line tickets probably for, and money line parlays, or kept money line parlays alive and so forth. So I don't think the public is going to jump off the Bills bandwagon at all. I don't know if it goes, I don't know where it goes, but I feel like the public's still going to come in on Buffalo and give them enough of a shove that they might have to push that beyond 2 touchdowns. So maybe 14.5 is in the future on this game, but definitely not an enviable spot for a rookie quarterback making. Granted, he got to play this past week, but playing and starting are two different things, and playing at home against the Jets and starting on the road against the best team in the NFL are two very different things. So this is a tough spot for him to be in. And I feel like the Bills probably feel like they got away with one yesterday, and I wouldn't want to be in the way of that the following week. That's for sure.
No, not at all. And it's going to be fascinating to see how Pickett does here. Zach Wilson, by the way, looked good for the Jets there in that battle with Pittsburgh on Sunday. So shout out to Zach Wilson having a nice moment as a starter there coming back from injury. So we're talking about Buffalo. We're talking about Kansas City. If you had to pick one right now to win the AFC, Patrick, who are you going with and why?
Wow, that's a good question because Kansas City was just so awesome last night. That's a good question. I think I'm taking Buffalo, though. I think Buffalo is going to find a way to get there. I just have a feeling. You know, I think their defense may be a little bit better, and I would take that one. But it's a tough call, and it'll be interesting to see who ends up, many weeks from now, out in January, who ends up with home field advantage in that game. But I did want to take a look while we're still on the topic of the Bills and just see what's going on with that 14, literally to the minute from DraftKings. And then again, thanks to our good friends at VSiN who have a minute, literally up to the date by the minute, tickets and, ticket count and money count on all these NFL games each week. And that number is just right now. Granted, it's Monday night, and you and I have stressed this a few times over the first few weeks of this live stream that there's not much in the pot. The overwhelming majority of money comes in on game day, and even the majority of that majority comes in like the hour or so leading up to kickoff. But right now at DraftKings, 52% of early bets on Pittsburgh, early tickets, 54% of early money on the Bills. So 14 to these people playing early probably seems like the right number, and that's why it hasn't moved at all, because you've literally got almost dead even two-way action on this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you that question back to you. Who do you think, if it's Bills or Chiefs, if you have to pick one?
Man. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes is a man on a mission at this moment. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs haven't missed Tyreek Hill at all. I don't think they need him. In fact, I think it's made Mahomes almost better not having him, because he doesn't have that guy over the top that he's forcing the ball to. He looks underneath the defense a little bit more, gets a little bit more creative other than just chucking that thing up there, which, look, it was successful. But when you have an arm like Mahomes and you have speed like Hill, that's going to occur. But I just think that we've seen so much magic from Mahomes early in the year here. It'd be hard for me to pick the Bills over the Chiefs at the moment. And look, the Bills are great, but they've had a tough early slate here, and they haven't looked invincible. No, they haven't looked invincible by any means. Better than
expected, but now Miami isn't going to have Tagovailoa, which but yeah, they have had a tough early schedule. And
you can't go down like that to Baltimore. Or teams like Baltimore, like that, you're not going to come back and beat a team like that all the time. So you go down like that against Mahomes.
They shouldn't have yesterday.
Exactly. So I'm going to go with KC at the moment. I just think they've looked more impressive early in the season. But I hope we get to see them play again. That'd be fantastic.
All right, we'll make it a bet.
Okay.
And I don't know what you think of wheat beers such as Blue Moon and Shock Top, but I've stumbled on.
I like all beer.
My new one I've been promoting over the last couple of weeks on this live stream is Firestone Walker Brewing Company, Cali Squeeze, Blood Orange. If you like Blue Moon and you like Shock Top or both, this is way better than both of them. It is absolutely amazing. And if the Chiefs go farther than the Bills, doesn't even have to get to the Super Bowl, but if the Chiefs go farther than the Bills, I will ship you a 6-pack of that.
Yes. All right. I'm excited to drink some beer here.
Now, if the Bills go farther than the Chiefs, then you have to pick something out.
I got to figure out something to ship you. I'm actually a big Narragansett guy. It's a local beer here in Rhode Island. Narragansett Beer Company.
I'm good with that.
Got all the local cans that they've made over the years. So I collect them. I kind of hide them with my big body here, but they're in the background. I'll ship you, my favorite 6-pack. They do a lot of good seasonal stuff. So whatever's good at the time, I'll send it away. So there we go. I love a good beer bet here in October. Let's do it. So, all right, let's close things out here with a game that I think is interesting because of the quarterback matchup. But the Eagles are a much better team than Arizona. They're 5-point favorites heading to face the Cardinals. So 5-point road favorites taking on Kyler Murray and Arizona. The over-under at 49.5. Those numbers coming to us from the Vegas Insider consensus page. Philadelphia's look great, man. 4-0. I think that they've looked like the best team in the NFC at this point. I know that Jacksonville took an early 14-0 lead in that game, but if you watch that game, Philly pretty much dominated from that point forward after the early touchdown that led to a 14-point lead for Jacksonville, Philly just flexed their muscle, man. And Nick Sirianni did some weird stuff at the end when they should have just, ran it out or knelt it. I mean, why'd they go for it on 4th down to let Jacksonville get the ball back? But then the football gods corrected that mistake by Sirianni, and the turnover occurred, and the Eagles were able to finish out that game. But I think Philly can cover this number easily. 5. I mean, I'd probably take him at 7.5. Patrick, what are the books saying about this one? 2 great quarterbacks in the NFC, two really dynamic dudes.
Yeah, interesting one. And I apologize. My dog Blossom here is like bugging me. She's
What's
like,
up, Blossom?
It's time to take me out. And I'm like, Blossom, you're not going out yet. So no, it is an interesting game, but look, this is a number that's moved toward the Cardinals in the first 24 to 30 hours or so. The Superbook opened the Eagles 6.5, and they moved to 5.5 in a hurry on Sunday night. And John Murray said that was off of several bets, early play on the home dog here. He did say, he's like, we are okay with that. And this is kind of to your point, Philly will be the biggest public side of the week. So we don't mind seeing a few bangs on the Cardinals side tonight, and tonight meaning Sunday night. He likes seeing some of this early Cardinals play because they know that they're going to, that the public is going to come back on Philly. But as you said, -5 on the, I think you said it is the consensus line at this point on this game. And I'm kind of spinning through my, I'm saying that, 5, 5.5, 5.5. But that's down from the 6.5 at the Superbook. So there is some early interesting movement toward Arizona on this, thinking perhaps this is a little bit better spot for Arizona than the odds.
Well, we have a viewer that is weighing in on that, saying, "Hey guys, first time, long time. This game smells like a trap. Give me the Cardinals." That's Scott Bolas on YouTube, and then he also says, "I'm keen to say Cardinals money line as well." So he sees a trap game here. Philly smelling themselves, their head getting a little too big, headed into Arizona. Maybe they get the Phoenix flu, which is something that'll happen. Right? You go out in Phoenix the night before, and then you head into that game in Glendale and a little foggy. I don't know. Scott, if you had like a full-on conversation with me and you really sold it, I might be able to get there with you, but I don't know, man. Philly's looked really good this year.
Philly's definitely looked really good.
Arizona's looked bad too. Like they've actively looked bad. Yeah,
and Arizona has both its victories have been on the road, and both its losses, therefore, have been at home.
Right.
So, on the flip side, so they're 2-0 on the road, 0-2 at home, which is an interesting dynamic. But also that's a product of who they played too. They had to play Kansas City at home. You don't want to get in front of Kansas City anywhere. And they played the Rams at home, which I don't know. After seeing what I saw tonight, perhaps Arizona should have looked better in that game, but. It could be a trap game. Certainly the early play, and I'm sure this is sharp play at the Superbook that brought that line from 6.5 to 5.5 in a pretty big hurry. The sharp bettors think that at least on the spread. Now, whether you go the distance and say fire on the money line, I don't know. But I don't think it's a bad money line play at all. I think it's, especially while it's still, 5.5, 5.5, and maybe if it, and if you think the public's going to come in on the Eagles, maybe sit tight. See if it goes back to 6 or 6.5 again, and see if you can get yourself a better price on the money line. I don't think there's any hurry because I don't think it's going to go. I don't think it's going to go much lower than that 5.5. It might, but I feel like what John said, that the Philly is going to be the biggest public side of the week. Again, that's John Murray, executive director of the Superbook here in Las Vegas. And if that's the case, then hopefully this goes back up. And if you kind of like the money line there. Or the spread. If you like either one, sit tight and get yourself a better number.
Alec on YouTube saying the Manning curse will reign supreme, Cards winning, but I will wait
about that earlier tonight
to bet the Cardinals. So apparently there's some sort of Manning curse here. Explain this to me. Am I missing something here, Patrick?
If I saw correctly earlier, I guess Jalen Hurts was on the Manning cast tonight.
Oh, okay.
And I think there's some sort of, I haven't done a lot of research into this, but I think there's some sort of, if you go on the Manning cast, something it's not,
you play poorly the following
week thing.
I didn't know if he was like a Manning camp guy. I didn't watch the Manning cast tonight. Full transparency. I watched the traditional broadcast with Joe and Troy.
but I keep an eye on the Twitters, and I saw that it had come up a couple times on Twitter that I think that's what it was, that Jalen Hurts went on the Manning cast, and apparently there's some sort of correlation between joining the Manning cast and not having success the following weekend. So perhaps that is the new version of the Madden curse. Okay. And the Manning curse, it's the same number of syllables, and it has a double repetition of consonants.
Manning, Madden, both M's,
just like double M's and M's, and you got a double N and a double D in the middle. So you've got that consonant repetition there. So maybe there's something to that. But
I can get behind anything anti-Manning, by the way, as a Patriot fan.
If that guides you. If that guides you, then perhaps you should think even a little bit more about Arizona. And it's some people, if they've done all their other research and they just need one more piece to push them in the right direction, and maybe the Manning cast is what does it. I'm not saying that's the smart thing to do, but it's a piece.
I came into this little segment about Philly, Arizona, saying that I like the Eagles and I'd bet them at an even higher number, and I'm now leaving
now you're thinking
with Alec and Scott convincing me to go take the Cardinals on the money line here. See, this is why it's good to have a guy like me here who bets with his gut fully, and a guy like Patrick here who's going to tell you what the smart people in Vegas are saying. So you can kind of meet somewhere in the middle here, because guys, there's no right answers, right? We're all just sort of winging it here. That's how it works. So
to a degree, no doubt. Hopefully we're
100%. But let me tell you guys about a guy who definitely isn't winging it. The handicapper heat check for Monday here. It is Scott Pritchard. Scott is an absolute monster with the NFL and MLB. He has nailed 6 straight NFL winners, and he is 8-2 in his last 10 picks. Visit Vegas Insider's expert picks page to take advantage of Chip's hot streak, or clip on Chip's promo on the Vegas Insider homepage. Click on that promo, guys, and take advantage. This guy is wicked smart. He's not betting with his gut like I do. He's got the analysis. That's your handicapper heat check. Stay hot, bettors. All right, Patrick, before we go, are there any of those games that we've talked about that you are most excited for? Bengals at Ravens, Raiders at Chiefs, Cowboys at Rams, Colts at Broncos, Steelers at Bills, and Eagles at Cardinals. Does one stand out to you as your favorite spot, whether it's just as a gameplay or from a gambling standpoint?
I think those last 2 games of the week, the Sunday nighter and the Monday nighter, those are, I think 3 of those 4 teams could be in the playoffs. I'm not sure which 3. I don't think the Raiders are making the playoffs, so never mind. I think the Bengals, Ravens, and Chiefs could all be in the playoffs. So I don't think the Raiders are making the playoffs. But however, this is the kind of week where if they can put it together, they can turn this season around in a hurry. If they can go to KC and get a win, because that was certainly one. If you looked at the schedule before the season and you're like, okay, trying to figure out wins and losses, you're not going to count on a Monday night win in Kansas City where the crowd's just going to be rabid and it's going to be unreal. But I think those last 2 games are just going to be really interesting from a watching standpoint. And as I said at the top, I might be interested in the Ravens at 3. Just having to win by more than a field goal at home in the Sunday night game after really blowing an opportunity. You'd like to think they're steamed a little bit about blowing that opportunity against arguably the best team in the NFL. I'll throw you just to give people some stuff, since I've got a bunch of numbers in front of me. Again, these coming from DraftKings.
Let's do it.
Some other, just so we spin you guys through a couple of more games if you like. The Thursday night game, the Colts Broncos, very even action at DraftKings right now. Literally dead even on ticket count early. 56% of early money on Denver. Somehow the Broncos are laying 3.5. Tom and I both agree Denver shouldn't be laying 3.5 against anybody right now, but they're laying 3.5. So be it. Maybe not against anybody, but against most teams, they shouldn't be laying 3.5. I'm just spinning through to see if there's some interesting discrepancies. Everything's Dolphins early against the Jets. 3-1 ticket count and more than 9-1 money on the spread at DraftKings.
Interesting.
Dolphins.
Because the Jets looked good on Sunday, and you have to
Mhm.
imagine Bridgewater is going to play for Miami. I like Bridgewater, but that's surprising that people are all over the Dolphins given how good the Jets. I mean, it's not like they looked like the freaking Chiefs on Sunday, but they took care of business, and Zach Wilson looked good. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah, they got, 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns, right? To do that, they were down 20-10, got a couple fourth-quarter TDs, and won the game. So, and that reminds me, just backing up real quickly on that Steelers game that we talked about earlier, Steelers Bills, and Kevin Rogers pointed this out on his live stream earlier today when I was on, and somebody else tweeted it out, and I can't remember who tweeted it out, so I apologize for not giving them proper credit, but this is not me, but I think Pittsburgh. The tweet was that Pittsburgh is the only team to have never been a dog of 14 or more points since like 1970 or something. So this is the first time in like 50 years that Pittsburgh has been a dog of 2 touchdowns. They've never been that big an underdog. So that's kind of interesting. But again, spinning through these and some more lopsided numbers, really lopsided to the Niners. DraftKings is early on. Almost 9-1 money and almost 9-1 tickets, more than 9-1 money. Again, early, as I stress every week. So while these splits are way skewed, it's a small pot of money. So it could be a matter of just a handful of bets, really. But early tickets in action heavily skewed to the Niners, who play the Panthers this week. I think there was 1 or 2 more that were the Cowboys. Tickets 3-1, money 6-1 on the Cowboys early against the Rams, and it looks like DK might be down to 4.5. I'm not positive on that, but I'm just looking at the screen here. So there's early believers, and maybe some of them jumped on board as they watched the Rams really just not put up points tonight. And then the Chiefs tickets 4-1, money 6-1 early on the Chiefs at 7. So that's and here's one that's pretty well skewed too. 3-1 plus tickets. And 95% of all money on the Vikings early against the Bears. And,
that makes sense to me.
Yep, it does. Vikings at home. And the Titans getting it, way lopsided against the Commanders, which also I think makes sense.
Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, I mean, the Titans, they took care of business on Sunday. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, Washington, they have talent. Right? Like it's I don't understand why they can't just put it together. Maybe it's just because Carson Wentz is never going to be able to put it together. Right. By the way, those uniforms, when I was watching them on Sunday, like the black uniforms they have, don't those look like the All-American game, like U.S. Navy, U.S. Army? Like I was like, I did a double take. I'm like, yeah, like is this the high school All-Star game uniforms they're wearing here? So I haven't.
Some people might say they're suited for that.
yeah. Which team would win? Exactly. So that's going to do it for the NFL Week 5 opening line report here. Patrick, any closing thoughts before we wrap it up here on a early Tuesday morning here for me on the East Coast?
Right, a late Monday night. And again, we thank you all for especially if you checked in tonight at any point during the live stream. We appreciate it. A night later, coming in on Monday night, but we will be back in our normal spot Sunday night. Generally, it'll start around the right after the Sunday night football game. If we get a real blowout, if something goes crazy or whatever, then maybe we'll get rolling a few minutes earlier and pull you away from the TV set if the game's not that good. But we'll be in our normal spot Sunday night. That'll be the case Sundays throughout the season. We'll have an opening line report with really fresh info and insights right out of the box from when these lines came out. But in the case of tonight, like you pointed out at the beginning, Tommy, this allowed these games to ferment a little bit, marinate a little bit, and we were able to give you a little bit more information on kind of where some of this early money is going and where the early line moves are coming and why they're doing what they're doing. So hopefully that helped inform anybody who checked in tonight. And if you only caught part of this, you can watch the whole thing back. Keep an eye on Vegas Insider's Twitter feed at Vegas Insider as soon as we go off the air here, so to speak. And you can watch back the whole thing. We'll tweet it out. You can check it all out. You can also check it out at Vegas Insider's YouTube channel.
That's right. You got to subscribe to the YouTube channel, guys. Go in, click on the link, subscribe, like this video, do all that good stuff. Makes us happy, and it makes our bosses happy. That's the most important thing, right?
Got to keep the bean counters happy,
Exactly. So that's going to do it for the opening line report here on a Monday night. We will catch you guys on Sunday on the Vegas Insider YouTube channel and right here on the Vegas Insider Twitter feed at Vegas Insider. Good luck with your bets, guys. We'll talk to you later.